The Soldiers of Ares. Chapter 24. When he awoke again, his face was wet. Someone had splashed water on his face. No, it wasn't water, it smelled different. It was beer. Maximus slowly opened his eyes to find himself in a tavern. It was a noisy place, with very little light coming inside. The entire place was crowded with dwarves, goblins, humans, and a few satyrs here and there. There was also a group of orcs at a table, and a cyclops was smoking a really big cigarette in the corner. Maximus tried to get up, but he was being held on his knees by an orc and a human. In front of him was a dwarf sitting with an empty beer can in his hand. He seemed to have been the one who woke him up. Maximus realized that it was the same dwarf that he had met the other day, Monroe or something, Ajax had called him. Well, it was a stupid move of yours to come to these streets again with what you did, kid, and even dumber to come here alone, Monroe said with an evil grin on his face. But I guess it was fate that this sword should come to my hands again. He realized that his blade was sitting beside Monroe. Maximus was pretty angry now, but there was no way to get his sword. "Give it back, you low-life," he shouted. The dwarf started laughing and said, "Ha ha, shout all you want. No one's going to save you here. This here is the Dirt Pick headquarters, and all these are members of my new crew. And don't think about a rescue coming either. No one outside the Dirt Picks knows its location, especially not that Smith God's dog, Ajax." Maximus knew he was in deep trouble now, and he couldn't really see a way out. Even if he managed to get his hands on his sword, there was no way he could fight his way out through all these people, and especially not a cyclops. He decided to wait and see what they would do with him. They insulted him for a while, and even gave a few slaps, but he kept his mouth shut the entire time. After a while, Monroe said, "This one's no fun. Just send him to the dungeons and let him rot." The two men holding him carried him off to the basement. There were a group of cages there, and he was thrown into one. All the other cages were empty, except for the one right next to him. In that one, someone was sitting curled up on the floor, covering their face. The two men who brought him here just laughed at him and left. There was still an orc guarding the main door, but he was dozing off. Orcs were perhaps the ugliest race in existence, and every one of them that Maximus had met had a nasty attitude to go with it. Maximus guessed he would be unhappy too, if his face looked like something that belonged in a barf bag. They were built like humans, but were a lot stronger. They also had a very good sense of smell, but their eyesight was poor, and Maximus had never heard of an orc becoming a scientist either. He walked around his cell checking to see if he could find something to use. But the only thing inside was a small stool and a deep hole in a corner that Maximus realized was supposed to be the toilet. They had taken all his money and his sword, but he still had his armor. He guessed it wasn't valuable enough to steal, but he had nothing on him that would get him out of this mess. He kicked the stool in frustration. A voice from the cage near him said, "Now what did that poor stool ever do to you?" Maximus looked to his side to see his fellow prisoner. It was a girl. She seemed young, probably a year or two lesser than him. She had brownish red hair, which was kept short at shoulder length, and she was staring at him with big green eyes. She looked cute and somehow reminded Maximus of a cat. Her nose was tiny, and Maximus half expected her to meow. But instead, she asked, "So what are you in for?" "What?" Maximus asked, a bit confused. "You know, what you did to piss these guys off," she said. "I didn't really do anything. They just caught me and took my sword," he said, picking up the stool and sitting on it. "Oh, so you're the victim," she said, leaning on the wall. "That's sad." "So what about you?" Maximus asked. "Oh, nothing. I sort of stole from them," she said casually. "So you're a thief," Maximus said. If she stole from the local mafia, she was either really brave or really stupid. "Well, thief is too strong a word, really," she said. "You see, I was hungry, and I saw a few of these guys bullying an old man for money. I figured anyone healthy enough to bully someone really didn't need the extra calories. So I stole their lunches." "But you got caught," Maximus said. "Well, that obviously was not part of the plan, idiot. Besides, how was I supposed to know these guys were gangsters or something?" she said. They sat there in silence after that, and Maximus was still irritated at the situation he was in. "So you got a name, Mr. Moody?" the girl asked after some time. This girl's tongue was starting to annoy him. "It's Maximus. What's yours, Kitty or something?" he said. "What? Why would it be Kitty?" she asked like it was the dumbest question she had ever heard. Obviously, she has never seen a mirror in her life, Maximus thought to himself. "It's Mia, by the way," she said. "Did you just meow?" Maximus asked. Mia rolled her eyes. "What, are you obsessed with cats?" "I said Mia, M-I-A, Mia," she said, spelling it out for him. "It's short enough for even you to remember." Okay, it was official. This girl was annoying him. "Well, I am so happy to meet you," he said sarcastically, and went ahead to brood on his stool. About an hour passed with no real change. The orc guarding them woke up once, but it went back to drooling in its sleep within minutes. Soon Max's frustration was replaced by boredom, so he tried to start a conversation with the girl again. He noticed that she was wearing a cloak with a hood, kind of like the one Achilles wore, only this one was brown instead of black. And it was way more tattered underneath that she wore knee-length jeans and a top with full sleeves. He thought it was an odd choice to wear full sleeves in this heat. "So what's with the hood?" he asked. "It's not a fashion statement, you idiot. We're in a desert. Covering your head is just common sense," she shot back. Maximus sighed and began to say, "Look, maybe we got off on the wrong foot." But just then a dwarf ran into the room and woke the orc. He seemed tense, and soon the two of them went up the stairs, leaving the two prisoners alone. "What was that all about?" Maximus asked. "I'll tell you what it was. My chance to get out of here," Mia said. She pulled out a set of pins from her jeans and went ahead to pick her lock. The lock opened within a minute. She opened her cage door and stepped out. Then she turned to Maximus and said, "Well, it was a pleasure meeting you, Max. And I really do hope you will get out of here somehow. Anyway, I'm leaving, so bye." She gave him a wave and started walking towards the door. "Wait, aren't you going to let me out?" Maximus asked worriedly. Mia put her hands behind her back and turned to face Maximus again. Then, with a mischievous smile, she asked, "And if I do that, what's in it for me?" "You want to get paid for helping me?" Maximus asked in disbelief. "Very good, Maxie, you figured that one out all by yourself. Maybe you're not as dumb as you look," she said. "But they already stole all my money," he said. "Well, that's too bad, but unless you offer something up, I'm not letting you out of that cage," she said, putting out her tongue. Maximus couldn't believe how she could be so greedy. "Listen, I'm traveling to Athens with my friends. I'm sure one of them could." Maximus began to say, but Mia cut him off and asked, "Wait, did you just say you were going to Athens?" Maximus nodded. "But you can't just go to Athens. You need a visa and permission to go there, and the borders are impossible to sneak past," she said, narrowing her eyes. Maximus didn't know any of this, but he said, "Let's just say I got a few influential friends there." "You're lying," she said. "Why would I lie about this?" He shot back. Mia closed her eyes to think for a second. When she opened them again, she said, "All right, I'll let you out on one condition. Take me with you to Athens." "Excuse me?" Maximus said. "You heard me. I want to join you to Athens and you have to get me inside. Otherwise you can just rot here in your cage," she said. Maximus thought about what she was asking and it didn't make much sense. "Why do you want to go there anyway?" he asked. Mia crossed her arms and said, "That's really not any of your business. Just say if you want the deal or not." Maximus didn't have a lot of time here. The guards could be back at any minute. "All right then," Maximus finally said. "Really?" Mia said. "You won't change your mind once I let you out, right?" "Hey, I'm a soldier, or at least I used to be, and I don't go back on my word," Maximus said as if that was final. She seemed convinced because she started to pick the lock to his cage, and soon enough he was out too. "Now what?" Mia asked. "Well, we try to sneak out of here," Maximus said. "Once we're out, I'll come back with my friends to get my sword back." "Sounds like a plan, but let's get out here first," Mia said. "Also try to find a weapon of some sort just in case." Maximus already had that covered. He pulled out his army knife from his left boot. Luckily, the kidnappers hadn't found it when they took his sword. "Wow, I feel much safer now. What are you planning to do, scratch their backs with that?" Mia said sarcastically. Maximus just scowled at her and said, "Just shut up and follow me." They headed out the door and up the stairs as quietly as possible. Soon they were at the door, into the tavern, but there was a path to its side, and if they were lucky, it would lead outside. But as they got near to the tavern door, he stopped and said, "Do you hear something?" "No," Mia said. "Exactly. There's no sound coming from the tavern at all," Maximus said. "So what?" Mia asked impatiently. "So the place was pretty noisy when I came in an hour ago," he said. "Maybe everyone has left." Maximus opened the door slowly to see what was going on. But when he saw what was inside, he wished he hadn't. This has been a chapter from Book 1 of the new World Odyssey series, The Soldiers of Ares. Links to the books in the bio. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this chapter, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe for more. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. See you in the next chapter.